Here are 5 mental and physical benefits of running. Number 1, let's talk about cardiovascular health. Your heart is the main organ in your body responsible for pumping blood around. This is critical because one of the components of blood is hemoglobin, which binds to oxygen and acts as a little transport vessel to get oxygen to the periphery. Running not only helps strengthen the heart muscles, so your cardiomyocytes, but it also helps strengthen your lungs. Specifically, increased exercise, not just running, but all sorts of aerobic exercises in general, can increase the amount of lung capacity you have. If you can increase the amount of lung capacity you have, you can increase the amount of oxygen that travels from your lungs to your heart to the rest of your body. Extremely beneficial for long endurance training, or just increased oxygenation to the brain, which in turn increases neurogenesis. All of this works synergistically to decrease your chances of developing heart disease. I mentioned the brain, but now let's talk about the mental benefits of running. In a world full of stress and depression and anxiety, running can act as a treatment. Running releases endorphins. Endorphins are sort of like the body's natural painkiller. I have an unpublished paper where I discuss the connection between emotional pain and physical pain, and how there's a very specific region in your brain called the anterior cingulate cortex that potentially acts as a relay for not only physical pain, but also emotional pain. Endorphins are awesome because they hit receptors in this region of the brain. These endorphins hit the same receptors, the opioid receptors, that known painkillers hit. These endorphins hitting those receptors are essentially the cause of that infamous runner's high. The third benefit of running comes down to its ability to manage weight. Specifically, running is one of the best exercises you can do to burn calories. Really, it doesn't just have to be running, it just has to be putting one foot in front of the other. But we can talk about metabolism and how exactly running increases it. Metabolism is the fancy word we use to describe a bunch of chemical reactions that happens intracellularly. Basically, by running, you increase metabolism by increasing intracellular activity. This can occur in all sorts of cell types, but it happens a lot in adipocytes specifically. Increased exercise tells adipocytes to be more active. And since adipocytes are the cells that actually store our energy, they store it in forms of triglyceride bonds. And so when we're active and we don't have a lot of glucose in our body, essentially adipocytes start to release these triglycerides so that way our body can undergo glycolysis and utilize sugar as its main source of energy. So without increased oxygenation, we would develop a lactic acid buildup, and our bodies can only sustain that for very, very short times. So running can increase metabolism. Number 4, running can increase bone density. Specifically, running, that constant slap of the feet on the ground, the muscles in your legs, they tell your bones, hey, you know what's cool? Being more dense. Specifically, they release these things called growth factors, bone morphogenetic proteins. And what these guys do, they hit receptors on the cells of bones and they tell the bones, hey, you know what's cool? 1 cell. You know what's cooler? 2 cells. So they can actually stimulate cellular differentiation and cell division, which can increase the number of osteocytes within the bones. This is a process that actually requires your feet to make constant contact with the ground. In a study conducted a few years ago, researchers actually showed that when comparing super athletes, specifically people that are bike riders, motocross people that only ride bikes, they showed that the density of these people's bones were less than the density of the bones of people who did running. Meaning that riding a bike is really good for your health, but it doesn't stimulate bone growth the same way running does. That's why it's always important to mix in different types of exercises. Now let's talk about the fifth and final benefit, stress management. There's two types of stress in life, eustress and distress. Eustress is the good type of stress we feel. It's when we are stressed, but it's not distressful. Like when you're choosing between two six-figure jobs. That's stressful, but it's not terribly distressful. Distress, on the other hand, is the kind of stress we all feel every day. At least if you're anything like me. Running has been known to lower symptoms associated with stress. Plus, when you're running and your mind is focused on putting your left foot in front of your right foot, the problems of everyday life seem to just disappear. That's why I started this campaign at Join the Camino. I was very, very stressed out and at a very low point in my life, and I thought, how can I do something different about that? I don't want to be stuck in the same rut. So I decided I wanted to run 100 kilometers to raise awareness for strategies to prevent type 3 diabetes. This has motivated me to get out there every day and be active, which is not only incredibly beneficial for my body as a whole, but in my opinion, it's even more beneficial for my mind. I am fortunate enough that I'm able to move my feet in front of the other. And so I don't take it for granted, this wonderful ability of mine to go running. Because I know one day I won't be able to. So I gotta enjoy the time while I can. So get out there today. Go join the Camino. Together, let's make a better world.